Welcome back to the channel, everyone. M. Night Shyamalan returned to theaters this week with his new movie, Trap, starring Josh Hartnett and his daughter, Saleka Shyamalan. It's always a gamble with Night because you never know what kind of quality of film you're going to get. No doubt he is one of the signature directors of the last 30 years. However, his legacy is one of hits and misses in very extreme ways. Sometimes you get great movies like Signs, The Village, The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Split, Glass. And sometimes you get disasters like Knock at the Cabin, Old, The Last Airbender, The Happening. With Trap, I think we get to see the very first film of Shyamalan's that can have a spot on both lists. The first two acts of Trap have you hooked, although it can lean ever so slightly into absurdity because contrivance and convenience and plot holes, which are necessary parts of the script in order for the movie to work, there is very little to find major fault with the core story until the third act, where it just goes sideways and, to be honest, kind of drags itself out a bit to the point where you just want it to end. Now, this is a spoiler-free review, so let's keep it to generalities here. The plot. The FBI is using a Lady Raven concert to trap a serial killer. They have a tip that the killer they are hunting for will be at this concert, and since he is most likely a male, he will most likely be escorting a young girl to the show. Unaware of this, Josh Hartnett, who plays Cooper, is a father who is treating his daughter, Riley, by bringing her to that very show, and he just so happens to be the serial killer the police are looking for. Once inside, he discovers what is going on and spends half of his time trying to figure out a way out of the venue with his daughter, and the other half trying to keep up the charade of just a dorky middle-aged father so his daughter does not expect anything is wrong. And the first thing that absolutely stands out is Josh Hartnett. He is a little over the top playing the serial killer father, but he absolutely delivers the performance necessary for the script to work. He is menacing, funny, manipulative, and fatherly all at the same time. And that is a feat not easy to accomplish as well. He had me rooting for him. I mean, yeah, I know. I should probably feel ashamed for rooting for the serial killer to win in the end, but I'm not ashamed. Hartnett was great in the role and deserves a lot of the credit for this film being as good as it is. He manages to easily flip the switch between personalities, a hallmark of actual serial killers of that caliber in real life. They can be who they need to be for the person in front of them. And again, Hartnett nails that aspect of the role and is the most entertaining part of the whole movie. The other actor we must talk about is Saleka Shyamalan, M. Night's daughter, and after doing some research, I found out this is her first film. She plays Lady Raven, the pop star, the pop singer that every preteen girl is obsessed with, and who's putting on the show that is designed to trap Hartnett's serial killer alter ego. Apparently, Saleka wrote and performed the music you hear in the movie. Now, call it a huge dose of nepotism to give your own daughter such a big career boost, or if you're like me and see that she wasn't half bad, I kind of walked away a little impressed that she was able to deliver that type of creativity right out of the gate. Even the members of my group stated that they kind of liked her music. Go figure. I know that her inclusion in the film has been incredibly divisive, but she did what the script needed her to do. Sure, a few of the more critical moments that needed a higher level of performance from her fell very short, but not so much that I could not be a little forgiving, seeing as it was her first ever role. But be warned, if her inclusion in the film turns you off, the third act is entirely her. The focus shifts from Hartnett's character to Lady Raven in a very big way. Now, as I stated earlier, the first two acts are great. Some minor issues here and there, but overall had me invested. The third act, which involves Lady Raven in a heavier manner, is where the film just goes off the rails completely. You leave the environment and narrative setting that you've been in for an hour and a half, only to go for a new setting, and it almost seems like the film is starting over. Character intros, exposition, lots of setup, and with the third act of anything, you don't want that. You want conclusions, solutions, resolutions to the problems and conflicts that you've already invested your time in. Now, is the third act totally dissatisfying? No, it's not. You get moments of satisfaction, but they're just moments because you are spending so much of your time readjusting to this new storyline that got introduced 75% into the film. And like I said, the third act is where contrivance, inconvenience, and absurdity really come into play to wrap up the storylines. But before we get more into that, a couple more things to touch upon. The other actors and actresses, they did fine, delivered the performances necessary. Ariel Donahue as Hartnett's daughter Riley did fine, nothing spectacular, just fine. Haley Mills as the FBI profiler running the whole operation brought a sense of maturity and gravity to the role, although it was a little odd seeing a 78-year-old woman playing an FBI agent, but hey, I think we can let that one go too. Jonathan Langdon played Jamie, a smaller role as an employee of the venue in which the concert is taking place, and he was incredibly entertaining throughout, especially when his average citizen, mid-level intelligence character interacts with Hartnett's serial killer, because the audience is in on the joke, and Langdon is great in the delivery of his lines and his expressions. He does provide the comic relief, although sparingly, and does provide an amusing post-credit scene that you'll want to stay for at the end of the show if you choose to see the film. And all this brings us to Shyamalan himself. Writer, director, producer, it's his show. It's his personal money on the line that's funding the project. I think I've said what I wanted to say about the script already. I know some of the other critics complained about cringy dialogue, but tell me this, what dialogue between a dad trying to relate to his preteen daughter is not awkward and cringy? That's real life. So I do not agree with that criticism from others. But what I love about Trap is a return to some of the classic Shyamalan moments and tropes. He uses depth of field extremely well to keep the focus on the main subject matter, and also uses it deceptively to keep the audience guessing and engaged as to where they should look to see what is really important, like giving us hints to what may happen next. Shyamalan is able to play with this technique, but he never overuses it. As well, his use of staring directly into the camera with a character like Hartnett's serial killer Cooper, when this happens, the audience, knowing what he knows, knowing the situation and the potential for harm, when Hartnett is staring directly at the camera, he's really staring directly at the audience, and it really heightens the tension of what is being played out. And you can almost see the sickness of cold calculation mixed with panic, mixed with the lack of human connection prevalent with psychopaths, just swirling in Hartnett's mind, which is illuminated with the most uneasy smile I think I've seen in a film in a long, long time. As well, in an interesting take on modern technology, Hartnett uses his cell phone a lot, but the angle by which these scenes are shot makes it appear as if the camera on his phone is pointed directly at us in the audience. And just subconsciously, that act of feeling like you're being recorded, it's unsettling in and of itself. Now, in addition to that, Shyamalan really uses space to convey what level of comfortability the audience should be at, and at times uses that comfort to subvert our expectations. Non-spoiler example here, because you see it in the trailer, Hartnett walks right through a group of police officers who are actively looking for him. You would think this act of being squeezed by the police physically would be nerve-wracking for Hartnett's character, but it's not. It's nerve-wracking for us, because we're looking at the situation with non-psychopathic eyes. Hartnett is a psycho, so he does not feel intimidation in this moment. He feels superiority because he's getting away with it. Us normal folks, we feel what we're supposed to feel when confronted with a full tactical SWAT team armed to the teeth. That base intimidation. And that is the original brilliance of Shyamalan since the beginning of his career. He can take a normal emotional situation and find ways to filter that through a character who is flawed or different somehow, and give the audience something that is entertaining, yet uncomfortable, and challenging, which augments whatever tension he is building in the first place. Now, the third act tries to play upon these same themes, using different spaces physically and mentally, such as inside a vehicle or a locked room or a garage, but because the third act is riddled with so much illogical inconsistency and an attempt to use social media in a way that it would never be successful at, the impact of these spatial methods gets lost, and the effects are significantly lessened on the part of the audience. Most striking about this film, because it is a Shyamalan offering, is missing from the third act is the major twist or swerve that he is known for delivering. Sure, we get a few small twists, but nothing that is reminiscent of his signature reveals. Bruce Willis being dead the whole time, Mr. Glass being the villain hiding in plain sight. Nope. Here you either see the twist coming or your shock is not at a major level, because the twists and turns we get are ones we've seen in a ton of other detective/serial killer/suspense films 100 times before. Again, trying to keep it spoiler free here so I won't get into specific details. Now, the best way I can describe this film is that it has a ton of potential in the beginning. It really ramps up the tension and the engagement with the audience, only to fall victim to its own narrative problems, which culminate in a full-blown derailment in the third act. It's written by Shyamalan, directed by Shyamalan, has all the hallmarks of a Shyamalan film, but except for the way in which it ends. So as I said in the beginning of this review, Trap can be placed on the list of really good M. Night films, and simultaneously be placed on the list of not so great M. Night films, making it one of the few, if maybe the only one, that is kind of mid. Now the big question, is it worth it to see it in theaters? Well, if you skip it and wait for streaming, it's gonna be fine. There's no spectacle here. Even the concert scenes lack the grandiosity that the character of Lady Raven seems to enjoy with her audience. And here's where I land. It's not a film that leaves an emotional impact on you because it fails to maintain an emotional grip throughout its narrative. It sort of lets you go and allows you to slip away, almost like a rejection, and may become one of the most forgettable films Shyamalan has made, which is a shame because it's one of the more potential-packed scripts he's ever written, just not fully realized. And the big waste here is that Hartnett's performance may not be remembered for just how good he is, because the film doesn't allow it to happen. And that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Did you see the film and what did you think? And what did you think of Josh Hartnett's acting performance? And what M. Night Shyamalan film is your favorite? For me, it's always been Unbreakable. If you want more movie reviews and commentary, click on the links in the description for my general movie review playlist and my retro movie review playlist. As well, if you like this video, consider hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing it out. It really helps us out each week. As always, I thank you for watching, and remember, I'm still your reluctant gringo from south of the border. Salud and a huevo.